Another investigation that could affect the 2024 campaign, Hunter Biden's. Does President Biden have a blind spot when it comes to his son? That's next. Let's turn to the Biden administration because, Jeff, you have some new reporting that President Biden might have a blind spot, according to people around him, when it comes to his son Hunter Biden's legal troubles and concerns about how this might impact his desire to be reelected. What do you got? What are you hearing?
Well, look, this is something that the president was hoping to put behind him. They were hoping that the plea agreement would go through, et cetera. Now there is very likely to be a trial unfolding at the same time as the presidential campaign. Even worse, a second special counsel's investigation on top of the one that's already investigating the president for classified documents. So the point, talking to a bunch of advisors, is that this is something that is not discussed around the president in his orbit because they do not think voters care about it. They think voters care about the economy, other matters. They're probably right about that. However, we know that this is going to be a central piece of the Republican debate and Republican talking points next week and beyond, the Hunter Biden situation. So what do swing voters think of Hunter Biden? As of now, they've never sort of drawn a correlation or blamed the president for his son's conduct. They feel sympathy for him, et cetera. But is there a blind spot directly around him and the campaign by not talking about this? It's verboten. You can't talk about Hunter Biden. We'll see. This is definitely going to be a topic on the debate stage next week.
And Kristen, Glenn Kessler from the Washington Post had a fact check about Joe Biden from earlier this month, noting that Hunter Biden admitted in court in July that he was in fact paid substantial sums from Chinese companies. Kessler wrote, Hunter Biden reported nearly $2.4 million in income in 2017 and $2.2 million in income in 2018, most of which came from Chinese or Ukrainian interests. But this directly goes against what Joe Biden said in the debate in 2020 with Donald Trump. Take a listen.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China.
Once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
So it's from two different debates, but I mean, Trump was right. I mean, he did make a fortune from China and Joe Biden was wrong. I don't know that he was lying about it. He might not have been told by Hunter, but this blind spot is a problem.
You call it problem non grata. New CNN reporting out this hour appears into the president's orbit, President Biden's orbit, and finds a deep-rooted reluctance to mention the president's son and his legal woes in front of dad. CNN's Jeff Zeleny is live in Washington. Jeff, you and Kevin Liptak, I think Arlette Saenz as well, put together this story. Your sources say that there's worry inside the Biden campaign right now about the president's, to some degree, blind approach to Hunter Biden. What did you learn?
Well, look, Phil, this is a chapter that President Biden and certainly First Lady Jill Biden had hoped would be closed. They thought that the investigation into their son Hunter Biden would be closed and they would move on before the campaign. We now, of course, understand after the special counsel announcement last Friday, no, that's not happening. And talking to a variety of advisors and allies and supporters of the president, they do not believe, and research will show that voters do not necessarily mind this unless there is a link that is tied to the president. And as of now, there is not. But they do wonder if there will be a blind spot about this because it is simply not mentioned or discussed on the campaign. And one senior advisor put it like this to us, really succinctly summed it up. The advisor said this: Hunter Biden is not a topic of discussion in campaign meetings. It's just not addressed. That, of course, is because the president does not like to talk about this. This is a deeply personal family matter. However, we know that the Republicans from the House committees to the Republican presidential campaign trail talk about this considerably. So there are some quiet rumblings. Is there a blind spot here for this Biden campaign if this deepens? We are going to see likely a trial of the president's son unfold at the same time as a presidential campaign. This, of course, is unprecedented. So while there certainly is not an equivalence between what we're seeing in former President Donald Trump and this, Republicans will try and make it so, starting perhaps next week on the debate stage in Milwaukee. So while the president does not want to speak about this, some of his advisors are keeping a close eye on the fallout from all of this as it unfolds over the next year and perhaps even longer. Phil?
Yeah, a problem they didn't think they'd be dealing with because of the plea deal, and that is now gone. Now a special counsel. I have seen all of the polling that makes very clear that the president's son, investigations into the president's son, are nowhere near at the level of the economy, of health care, of any of the top-line issues that we see in poll after poll after poll Americans care about. I also know that they are furious about the idea that this is apples to apples with what the former president is facing. You can put those out there and make very clear that's the case.
I don't think this is an issue that people would answer a poll question saying they care about, right? They care about the healthcare and the economy and all these other issues. But between Trump's indictments, which also Joe Biden doesn't want his team and the DNC talking about, and his son's investigation, he's now basically issuing an order for the top person in the Democratic Party not to talk about the two of the most talked about issues in the country politically.
Yeah.
And that's a tough place to be on both of those counts, right? It's hard to never answer questions about his son's investigation. It's hard to never talk about the former president and the front runner to be your rival's criminal charges. And so it makes them not active participants in two of the biggest storylines in the
debate.
country.
And to your point about the general election, though, I think the place where it could transfer over to independent voters, to swing voters, is if there were to be some connection between, Hunter Biden's, monetization of his relationships or names or claims and President Biden. But so far, we need to keep saying that has not occurred. That's, I think, the way that becomes a bridge general election issue.
Right, and we keep saying it has not occurred. But the internet, Facebook, where a lot of these people are getting their news, not from news sources, it's about they keep that straight and keep the truth out there and not get Joe Biden, the president, swirled in with any sort of illegal things that may have happened.
Can I ask, though, you've covered Capitol Hill for a number of years. Republicans, for months, if not longer, were calling for a special counsel related to Hunter Biden. They got the special counsel, and this has been the response from some of them. Take a listen.
Glad you're doing this.
You should be pissed off. You should be pissed off because this appointment is illegal. It is contrary to the Department of Justice regulations, and it is designed to cover up wrongdoing from Hunter Biden, from Joe Biden, and from Merrick Garland.
I believe that's why you saw Merrick Garland appoint a special counsel when he said he wasn't going to, because we have built a case that will win in court.
I'm tired. We need to take the gloves off. This is ridiculous. What we need to do is bring this forward, bring in Hunter Biden, bring in Joe Biden.
Can I just tell you that Senator Ted Cruz was one of a number of Senate Republicans who signed a letter last year asking for a special counsel in this case. They wanted that, to your point. They have asked for it. They have hammered it. Why don't we have one? This is bad. This is a cover-up. Now they do have one, and it's not good enough. It's also a cover-up.
Yeah, look, it's a catch-22. It's a double blind. You should be pissed off at the hypocrisy here. And remember, the person who is acting as special counsel is a former Trump appointee. Right. And according to Attorney General, when he said he wanted special counsel status, he got it. So you can't criticize what you asked for.
Yeah, I understand the questions because of the IRS whistleblowers and what they said.
And that's fine.
But now he has the authority that they wanted him to have. Okay.
CNN is learning that White House advisors are treading lightly around President Biden when it comes to his son Hunter. Details from insiders when we come back. There is new CNN reporting out this afternoon shining light on one of the most sensitive subjects right now inside the White House, Hunter Biden's legal saga. Sources say that as this plays out amid his father's re-election campaign, it is frustrating the president, but people inside his orbit rarely bring up the topic, worrying advisors this could become a blind spot heading into 2024. Chief National Affairs Correspondent Jeff Zeleny joins us now. Jeff, this is your reporting. Advisors close to Biden telling you that this subject is verboten for the president.
Well, look, the president has long made clear that this is a deeply personal family matter. It's been going on for quite some time, but that decision last week to appoint a special counsel means that it's going to be going on for much longer. It also means there's likely to be a trial unfolding in the midst of a presidential campaign. So, of course, that raises questions with voters. When we've talked to a variety of people inside the Biden orbit, they said, look, voters are concerned about the economy. They're concerned about the inflation, other matters, but is there a worry about this? But this is not something that is discussed with the president. So a few advisors who are very supportive of the president are wondering, is this a blind spot for the president? Is this a blind spot for the campaign? Now, right now, they do not believe it is a problem. Right now, they do not believe that voters will hold the president accountable for stuff his son may or may not have done because there is no link. However, we know Republicans are going to bring this up. Next week at the Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee, this, of course, will be a central issue. So the question is, has some of the moral high ground here that President Biden has had against former President Donald Trump, will that be eroded some? This is just something we'll have to keep an eye on. Democrats are keeping an eye on it because they know this now is very unusual. It's going to be unfolding at the same time as the presidential campaign. Certainly not the same as the situation involving the former president, but it certainly raises questions in the mind of some voters, Republicans at least. Will that spill over independents and swing voters? We'll see.
Yeah, the White House so far hasn't really commented on Hunter Biden's legal saga. That may be harder to do come closer to November 2024. Deb Zeleny, thank you so much. Jim?